Today we are going to be graphing absolute value functions. So your absolute value function is a V-shaped graph. Think of the word value, starts with the letter V. So V in value makes a V-shaped graph. So every time you see absolute value bars, so two straight up and down lines, then the absolute value graphs will make V's. So think of V for value. Okay, so I believe you've heard the word vertex before, but the vertex is either the lowest point of the graph, so that guy right there, or the vertex is the highest point of the graph. If it's the highest point of the graph, it's called a maximum, but if the vertex is the lowest point of the graph, it's called a minimum. So in this picture, we've got a minimum because the vertex is the lowest point of the graph. In this picture, the vertex is the minimum because it's the lowest point of the graph. So vertex is where the two rays come together. So where those two rays come together, it will either be the lowest point of the graph, called a minimum, or to be the highest point of the graph, called a maximum. Okay, so in order to graph these, we need to know a formula, and you need to know where all your letters are located. Okay, so first of all, you're going to see absolute value bars, and the M is going to be inside the absolute value bars, and it's going to be smushed with the X. The B is going to be inside the absolute value bars, but behind the X. And the C is going to be outside of the absolute value bars, either added or subtracted from the problem. Okay, so one thing I really want to stress is M and B are inside those absolute value bars. So do not look on the outside for your M or for your B. Okay, C is going to be the only guy on the outside, and C will be what's added or subtracted. It won't be something multiplied, it'll be something added or subtracted. Okay, so we have this formula for how to find the vertex. So your vertex formula tells you to do this. It tells you to take the opposite of your B, divide by your M, comma C. Okay, so I'm going to go through this. It's worked out, but I'm going to explain it. So first of all, let's locate M, B, and C. So remember, M is inside the absolute value bars, smushed with the X. So our M is the 4. B is inside the absolute value bars, but behind the X. So my B is this -8. And C is the number outside the absolute value bars, added or subtracted. So this is not the C because it's smushed with the absolute value bars, so it's multiplied. So this is the C because it's outside the absolute value bars and it's what's added or subtracted. Okay, this 2 is important, and I'll talk about that in a second. So right now, what I'm trying to get us to figure out is what the vertex is. And so to find the vertex, we use this formula. So it says take the opposite of B. So it wants me to take the opposite of a -8. So that's what you see right here, the opposite of a -8. Well, the opposite of a -8 is a +8. So that's where that came from. Then it says divide by M. So I'm dividing by 4 because we said that 4 was the M. Okay, and then comma C. And we said C was this -3. So that's where the -3 came from. So then you just clean it up. 8 divided by 4 makes 2. And so that's where the 2 -3 came from. So that's our vertex, and we found it using this formula. Okay, the next thing you have to know something about is slope. And slope is going to be anything smushed with your X, anything multiplied with it. So it can be inside the absolute value bars, it can be outside, or it can be a combination of the two. So slope is going to be anything smushed with the X. And we've got a 2 and a 4 smushed with it. So since they're smushed, we're going to multiply the 2 and the 4, and that's going to make 8. Okay, so if you're confused, we're going to practice. But one thing I really want to repeat is M and B are inside the absolute value bars. And in this lesson, slope is not represented by the M. I know when you're used to graphing lines that slope and m are the same thing, but in this lesson, it's going to be different, okay, which is kind of weird at first. So you just have to train your brain. So m, b, and c are going to be used to find the vertex, and then whatever's smushed with the x, that's going to be your slope. Okay, here we go. Let's try it. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the vertex using that formula up above, and then we're going to plot it, and then we're going to figure out our slope, and we'll rise and run on each side, and then we will connect our points with a V-shaped graph. And we are going to practice domain today. We're going to do inequality notation, and we're going to do interval notation. Okay, so looking up here at this formula, let's remind ourselves where M, B, and C are again. So M and B are inside absolute value bars. M is smushed with the X, B's outside behind the X. Okay, so the 3 is inside the absolute value bar, smushed with the X, so that's the M. The B is this 12, because it's inside the absolute value bars, behind the X. And then remember, C is anything outside added or subtracted. And because we don't see anything outside added or subtracted, that means our C is a 0. Okay, so let's practice our formula. So our formula says, take the opposite of B. All right, well, B is a positive 12. What's the opposite of a positive 12? A negative 12. Put your division bar. Now let's put M. And M is this 3, comma, and then who did we say C was? C is 0 because there's nothing added or subtracted. Okay, now let's clean it up. What is negative 12 divided by 3? Negative 4. So our vertex is negative 4, comma 0. All right, that's the first thing we're going to plot. So if you forgot how to plot points, the X comes first, the Y comes second. X is what you do left and right, because the X-axis is left and right, and Y is what you do up and down, because the Y-axis is up and down. So when you plot points, you go left or right first. When you plot slope, you go up or down first. So they are two different things. All right, so I'm going to go left 4, because it's a negative, and I don't go up or down, because the Y is a 0. So there's my vertex right there. Okay, so now let's find our slope. So slope is going to be not the M, but anything smushed with the M. So let's look. What all is smushed with the, what's smushed with the X? And the only thing smushed with the X is the 3. So 3 is our slope. So in this problem, the M and the slope happen to be the same thing, but up here, they weren't. Up here, the M was just the 4, but the slope was 8, because that's what was smushed with the X. Okay, and remember 3 is the same thing as 3 over 1, because remember every number is understood to be over a positive 1. Okay, now slope is rise over run. So when you do slope, you go up or down first, and then left or right. So since it's a positive 3, I'm going to go up 3 and right 1, because it's a positive 1. I'm going to do it again, up 3, 1, 2, 3, and right 1. Now remember, this is a V, so I only have half of the V. I need to make the other half. So I'm going to go reverse. I'm going to go up 3, but instead of right 1, I'm going to go left 1. Up 3 and left 1. That way I can have my V. Now, let's see if we can figure out domain. So domain are X's. This is what you do left and right. So I'm going left, and this arrow means I go forever left. Now I'm going right, and this arrow means I go forever right. If you ever go forever to the left and forever to the right, you hit every number there is. Forever to the left hits all those negative X values. Forever to the right will hit all those positive X values. So that's called all real numbers. And I'm going to do the symbol. Straight up and down line, and then make an R. All real numbers. Okay. Interval notation. If you go forever to the left, you're headed to negative infinity. And if you go forever to the right, you're headed to positive infinity. So it's negative infinity, comma, positive infinity. Remember, you can't equal infinity, so those will be parentheses. Okay, let's look at range. Range are your y's. This is what's happening up and down. Now, the graph is going forever up, but it doesn't go forever down. This is as low as it gets. You don't see any of the graph lower than this spot. So, the lowest y value we have is right here at 0. And it's a 0 because you're not up or down. Because of the closed circle, it equals it. And then when you go up, up, up this way, or up, up, up that way, your y's are getting bigger. So its y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, interval notation. When you go up, 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 you're getting bigger, 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 so you're headed to positive infinity. So remember, it's smaller number, bigger number. So it's 0, comma, infinity. Closed circle gets a bracket. Infinity is always a parenthesis because you can't equal infinity. Okay, let's just keep trying. Okay. Let's go to number 3. Looking at number 3, let's see if we can locate M, B, and C. So remember, M is inside the absolute value bars smushed with the X. B is inside the absolute value bars behind the X. So B is that -8. And M is this +2 here. And C is a number added or subtracted. This 2 is not added or subtracted because it's smushed. So this -6 here, that's the C. All right, I'll deal with this 2 after a while. I don't need it for the vertex. The vertex just wants to know the B, the M, and the C. All right, let's try it. It says take the opposite of B. So what's the opposite of a -8? A +8. Put your division bar. Now, who is M? M is 2, comma. Who is C? C is -6. It's what's added or subtracted. Now, let's clean it up. What is 8 divided by 2? 4. So we have 4, comma, -6. All right, that's my vertex. So now I want to plot it. So remember, points, X comes first, Y comes second. Remember, X is left or right. So from 0, 0, I'm going to go right 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But since my Y is a -6, I'm going to go down 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's my vertex at 4, -6. Okay, now we need to find our slope. So slope is funky in this lesson. Slope is anything smushed with the X, inside, outside, or both. So I look at anything smushed with the X, and I've got a 2 and a 2, and because they're smushed, I multiply them. So 2 times 2 is 4. So that's my slope. And remember, 4 is the same thing as 4 over 1. All right, so since slope is rise over run, I'm going to go up or down first. So since the 4 is positive, I go up, and since the 1 is positive, I go right. So from my vertex, I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1. Let's do it again. Up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1. Now that's only 1/2 of my V. I need the other half. So we'll go back to the vertex, and we'll go up 4, but left 1 this time. Up 4 and left 1. That way I can have my entire V. So now make it look like a V. And arrows on both ends. Okay, let's talk about domain. Remember, domain are X's, left and right. So as I go to the left, I hit an arrow, which means I go forever left. As I go to the right, I hit an arrow, which means forever right. So if you ever go forever left, forever right, that's called all real numbers. When you go forever left, you're getting smaller and smaller, which is negative infinity. And when you go right, you get bigger, bigger, which is headed to positive infinity. And remember, infinities are always parentheses. Okay, range, these are your Y's. So now we're thinking up and down. This graph goes forever up, but not forever down because there's nothing lower than this guy. So who is our Y value right here? Our Y value right there is a -6 because we're down 6. Because of the closed circle, it gets an equals. And then when you go up, up, up this way, or up, up, up this way, your y's are getting bigger, because whenever you go up, y's increase. All right, so when you go up, 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 you're getting bigger, 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 so you're headed to positive infinity. So the lowest you are is -6, and the highest you are is positive infinity. Close circles, get brackets, infinity always is a parenthesis. Did it seem better? Okay, let's look at number 4. All right, now number 4 looks a little bit different. And that's because we only see one number inside the absolute value bars. Okay, so remember, M and B are inside those absolute value bars. So do you think that 2 is the M or the B? Let me write the formula up here. The 2 is the M, because remember, M is in the absolute value bars smushed with the X. So that 2 right there is the M. Now B is behind the X inside the absolute value bars. Do you see a number behind the X inside the absolute value bars? Nope. That means B is a 0. And then C is what's added or subtracted on the outside. So who do you think C is? -4. Good. And this little negative out in front, he's going to have to do a slope. All right, let's try our formula. So remember, it's opposite of B over M, comma C. All right, so opposite of B. What's the opposite of 0? Still just a 0. Okay, who did we say M was? 2. And who did we say C was? -4. Now, let's clean it up. What is 0 divided by 2? 0. So our vertex is 0, comma, -4. All right, so when you plot points, X comes first, Y comes second. X is left or right. So since the X is 0, we don't go right and we don't go left. We are just going to go down 4. Okay, now I need to figure out my slope. Now remember, slope is anything smushed with the X, inside, outside, or both. So if I look at everything smushed with the X, I've got -2. So that's my slope. Now M is just the +2, but the slope is anything smushed with the X, so M's -2, which remember is the same thing as -2 over 1, because every number is understood to be over a +1. So slope, remember, is rise over run or fall over run. So this time I'm going to go down because it's negative, but the 1 is still positive, so I'll go to the right. So let's go to our vertex, and we're going to go down 2 and right 1. Let's do it again. Down 2 and right 1. But I only have 1/2 of my V. I need the other half. So go back to your vertex, go down 2 again, but this time go left 1. Down 2, left 1, and now you've got your V. All right, let's see if we can figure out domain and range. So domain are X's, left and right. As I go to the left, I hit an arrow, which is forever left. As I go to the right, I hit an arrow, which is forever right. So if you go forever to the left, forever to the right, that's called all real numbers. Forever to the left takes you to -infinity, and forever to the right takes you to positive. Infinity is always parentheses because you can't equal infinity. Now, have you noticed anything about the domain so far? This one was all real numbers, and this one is all real numbers. It doesn't matter if the V opens up or if the V opens down. This one goes forever left, forever right, and this one goes forever left, forever right. So domain will always be all real numbers for all your absolute value bars. Okay, now let's look at range. Range are your Y's. This graph goes forever down, but not forever up. This is the highest Y we have. So let's find out who this Y is. Who is our Y right here? -4, because we're down 4. And because of the closed circle, we equal it. Now this time the graph goes down. So what happens to y's when the graph goes down? Y's get less. Okay, so when you go down, 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 you get smaller, 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 so you're headed to negative infinity. So this is the smallest you can get, so negative infinity goes first, and the highest we get to is the -4. Remember, closed circles get brackets, and infinities always get parentheses. So let's just look at the range for a second. When a graph goes down, y's get less. When a graph goes up, y's get greater. When you go up, you always go to positive infinity. But when you go down, you always go to negative infinity. Okay, let's try another. All right, let's look at this guy. So, M and B, inside those absolute value bars. Who do you think M is? 2. M is that 2 right there. It's inside the absolute value bars, smushed with the X. Who do you think B is? That +4. It's inside the absolute value bars, behind the X. Now, who do you think C is? C is this -1. It's what's ever added or subtracted outside. Okay, the 3 has nothing to do with the vertex. The vertex only wants to know something about the M, B, and C. All right, does anybody remember that formula? Opposite of B over M, comma, C. All right, so it wants us to take the opposite of B. What's the opposite of a +4? A -4. Put your division bar. Who'd we say M was? 2, comma. Who did we say C was? -1. Let's clean it up. What's -4 divided by -2? -2. And then bring that down. Can you hear my washer in the background? It's very squeaky. I think it's going to break down on me any day. Oh, my words. Life. All right. X, Y. All right, since my X is -2, I go left 2. And since my Y is -1, I go down 1. So this is my vertex, left 2, down 1. All right, now let's find slope. Slope is anything smushed with the X, inside, outside, or both. Any idea what the slope might be? 6. The slope is anything smushed with the X. Because they're smushed, you multiply them, so the slope is 6. And remember, that's the same thing as 6 over 1. So slope is rise over run, so I'm going to go up 6 and right 1. So go to the vertex, up 6, and right 1. Now, I don't have room to do it again. I could eyeball it, but I'm just going to make the other half. So go back to the vertex, go up 6, but this time go left 1. Now make your V. Arrows on both ends. Any idea what the domain will be? All real numbers. You go forever to the left, you go forever to the right. So all real numbers. Forever to the left is negative infinity, and forever to the right is positive infinity. And that's the domain every single time you have an absolute value graph, even if it opens down, because this still goes forever to the left, forever to the right. Okay, now range. This graph goes forever up, but not forever down. So let's find our lowest y. And who is our y value right there? -1. And because of the closed circle, it equals it. Now what happens to y's when the graph goes up? Y's get greater. And then when you go up, what kind of infinity do you go to? You go to positive infinity. So it's -1, the lowest y, to infinity. Bracket on the -1, parenthesis on the infinity. It's not so bad, is it? You just needed to know a formula for finding the vertex. You needed to know how to find slope and where M, B, and C are located. Okay, now this next little section is just a little matching. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the vertex of each of these problems and see if I can figure out which picture it is. Okay, so this 3 right here is the M, But who's the B? The B is 0. Because remember, B is inside the absolute value bars behind the X, and nobody is behind the X in the absolute value bars. And then C is the -4 because it's what's added or subtracted outside. Okay, so formula for vertex, opposite of B over M, comma C. All right, so opposite of B. What's the opposite of 0? Still just a 0. Put your division bar. Who's M? M is that 3 right there. And then C. C is the -4. Okay, let's clean it up. What's 0 divided by 3? 0. All right, so I'm looking for a vertex of 0, -4. Which of these pictures has a vertex at 0, -4? None of them look right. This one is 4, 0. This one is not right. This one's -4, 0. This one looks like it should be the 0, -4. It just doesn't look like it quite gets down to the -4. I bet it does. I bet it touches that -4. I'm just having a hard time seeing it from the graph I have in front of me. But this means don't go left or right. Don't go left, don't go right. Go down 4. So I bet this does go all the way down to the -4. I just can't tell from my picture. And that's the only one that has that vertex. So that means that number 6 here is letter B. And now B is done. Okay, let's look at the next one. So M is this 3 here. B is this -4. Because remember, M and B are always inside the absolute value bars. Who's C? 0. There's nothing added or subtracted outside. Okay, let's see if we can find our vertex. I'm not going to write the formula again, but let's look at it. Opposite of B. What's the opposite of a -4? A +4. Put your divide bar. Who's M? 3. And then who's C? 0. Okay, 4/3 is the same thing as 1 1/3. Or 1.33333 repeating. Which graph looks like the vertex is 1.3330? This one. It's a little bit past the 1, not quite to the 2. So this is the graph that matches. So this is answer choice C. And C's out. Okay, let's look at number 8. So number 8, who do you think M is? It's 1. It's the number inside the absolute value bars smushed with the X. It's not that 3. Remember, M has to be inside the absolute value bars. It can't be outside. So M is this 1 right here that's in front of the X that you don't see. Who's B? -4. It's the number behind the X, but still inside the absolute value bars. Who's C? 0. It's a number added or subtracted on the outside, and nothing's added or subtracted. So C is 0. Okay, so let's find our vertex. So remember, opposite of B, what's the opposite of -4? +4, division bar. Who's our M? 1. And who's C? 0. Well, what's 4 divided by 1? 4. So 4, 0. Well, which of these pictures has a vertex at 4, 0? A does. A goes right 4 and stays put. So this is answer choice A. And A is done. And if I had to check slope, the slope would have been 3. And this goes up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. So sure enough, the slope is good. And so that means that number 9 must be D. Okay, hopefully you didn't think this was as bad as it looked at the beginning. That's all for today. Smiley face.